In this video, I'm going to draw a fish using mostly shapes. When you use shapes along with the node tool, you end up with fewer nodes, giving you smoother lines than if you would have used the pen tool. The first thing I'll do is to draw two ellipses. So I'm going to take this one and draw an ellipse here, and then I'm going to need a round circle. So remember, when you want your ellipse to be perfectly round, you need to hold down the Shift key and do that, and then let up on the mouse and let go of the Shift key. So now I have a long ellipse and I have a perfect circle. Now what I need to do is I want this to be the body of the fish. So I'm going to select both of them. So you go Control and Control again to select both of your layers, and then you go up here and you're going to add them up. So you click the Add button and then you'll add them up. So now you have what hopefully after a while will look like a fish. Okay, now we need to alter this into a fish shape. So I'm going to select the node tool, and now I can alter this in a fish shape. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and pull this in so I can fatten up the tail a little bit. And now you'll see that using the node tool, my handles have appeared. So I'm going to push down Alt and then take this node and pull it down, and this is going to fatten up my tail a little bit. Remember, whenever you want your handles on your node tool to change direction, you have to push down the Alt key first and then move the handle over, and now we have our nodes. Okay, I think I lost a node. There we go, got it back. Alright, so now we have what looks like a tail. Now we need to work on the body. So I will take his little nose and pull it out a little bit, and then I'm going to select Alt again and pull down on the handles to give his nose a little bit of shape. How pointy you want the nose kind of depends. If you want it really pointy, you're just going to keep going and going with your handles. Now I want to tell you that later on I will be altering the fish a little bit more. Now we need to work on his body a little bit. So notice I still have the node tool selected, and I will select the nodes on his tummy, and with those nodes selected I can just grab one of the tummy nodes and pull it forward, and both of them will move, and now I have the head of my fish. Okay, so now I want to make his tail a little bit thinner. So what I'm going to do with the node tool selected, I am going to select the two nodes at the base of the tail and then select Transform and the Transform box. And then by doing that, I can pull down and make his tail a little bit narrower. Okay, so then I can click out of that. So I have a fish shape kind of like what I want for now. Now we need to give our fish an outline so that we can see him. And well, first of all, I'm going to move him a little bit. I might want to select the Move tool to do that. So I'll move him over here, and you see the red line appears where we can kind of line him up. So I'm going to put him there, and then I'm going to give him a stroke. So it's going to be black, and I'm just going to take this slider, this width slider, and give him a stroke. Okay. Now we need an eye for this fish. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the ellipse tool and hold down our Shift key and make an eye, and then move that eye into place. And over here on my layers, I think I'm going to give them names, because you're going to find out once I get going on this is we're going to have a lot of layers here. Okay, with the eye selected, I need to make a copy of this eye again, and the easiest way to do that is to press down Control and J, and notice how another eye appears. So now we've got a copy, and we want to make this eye smaller, so we will make that eye smaller and move it into position right here. Maybe we want to make it smaller than that a little bit and move it into position. And okay. And then we want a fill for this. So we're going to give this a black fill, and now we have our eye. But we want our fish to have a twinkle in his eye, so we're going to take this eye and go Control J. That will give us another layer, and then we're going to hold down Shift, make this smaller, about that small, and then move it up here, and then give it a white fill, like that. So now we have a white fill. Let's move this up a little bit. I'm using my keys on my keyboard to do this. Okay, so now we have our eye. After we get done with the eye, we're going to make his fins. So we need to duplicate the large circle. And that's this one. I didn't label these separately because you can kind of tell which part of the eye is which by the size of the circles over here. But I want to duplicate this larger one, so I will select it and then go Control J and move it over here to where it's going to be sitting in the back of the fish, but it isn't yet because I need to move it down. So I'm going to move that layer down here, and I'm going to label this dorsal fin. Okay, so I need to click on the Node tool, convert to curves, and now we can make our fin just by straightening it out. I don't think it really matters that much what it looks like. I want to make a little bit here, and then use our handles to give it a shape. That's really what you want to do to give it that fin shape. Otherwise, you're just making it longer and fatter if you're not going to use the handles. So I've used my handles like this to make his fin. I'll click out of there so we can see what our fin looks like. So after we've made this fin, what I want to do is I want to click on the fin and then go Control J again, so we have another copy. So now we have two dorsal fins. Actually, we've got a dorsal fin that's not going to be in the right place, but we want a fin down here. So we're going to move it down, and we're going to go up here where it says Flip Vertical. Click on Flip Vertical, and then adjust it and move it into the place where we want it to be. Okay, so now we have, maybe we need it to be down a little bit more, and I'd like that fin to be, I really don't need to be adjusting it now because I'm going to be adjusting it later anyway. But I think I'm going to move it out a little bit, move this down a little bit. And I'm going to click on this one, and maybe the whole point was so I wouldn't have to adjust it, and here I am adjusting it. Okay, so we've got our two fins. I think I'm going to straighten this out a little. Okay, now we have our two fins. Now we need one more fin. We need the pectoral fin, and that one is going to be right here. So we're going to go back to our eye right here. We're going to go Control J, and so now we've got another copy, and we are going to move it over here and click on our node tool, convert to curves, and then we're going to make this shaped into a pectoral fin just by pulling it down and like that. Maybe give it a little bit of a dent in there. I don't want to make this too big. So we'll just fiddle with it until we get the fin that we want, and then we can select the move tool and move it around so that it's about there. And maybe I want it to be maybe a little bigger. Okay, so now we have our pectoral fin, so let's click out of that and take a look, and that looks fine with me. To me, I should say. Okay, now we need for this fish to have a gill, because fish do have gills or else they would drown. So I'm going to select the node tool again. Oh, pen tool, sorry. Select the pen tool this time. I don't want the node tool. Select the pen tool and put one there, one there. And then escape, because if you don't, then you're going to be pulling your pen tool everywhere. And we need for, and this is in the perfect place because the pectoral fin is covering up this, but we're going to move it out. And the reason we're going to move it out is because I want to work on it. So this is going to have a specific shape. It's going to be narrower at the ends. It's going to be tapered at the ends. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is to go into stroke and go down here to this box that says pressure. I know it doesn't look like you can do anything with it, but you can if you click on it. So there's your pressure box, and this is how you change the pressure of the lines that you draw. So we're going to, what we need is we need for this line to be in a curve like that. So to do that, we're going to have to put a node right here. We're going to have to click there, and then we're going to be pulling down both sides in this direction. And notice how this changed. It got fat in the middle, and that's what we want. So now that we have that, we can click out of that, and we can now change the shape of our gill so that it is bent out in this direction. But we have to click the node tool to do that. So we're going to go in the middle and pull out, and that will give us a gill. And so we can move it back, click on the move tool, move it back here, move it up a little bit, and now we have our gill. Now we need some scales, and we can use our gill to make those scales. So I'm going to select the gill, go Control J, and move this out. And over here, I'm going to label this. I'm going to label this scales. And this one will be gill. Okay, so we have one scale. So now I'm going to select the node tool, and I am going to move it to where it's going to form kind of a scale, and then to round it on the end, I'll just pull out on our handles and make it to where we have a rounded gill. There we go. Rounded gill. Move it back. The beauty of this is you only have to mess around with this once, because what's going to happen, okay, I think I want them a little bit narrower. Narrower. Plot of the handle, make it fatter. Okay, now I've got our gill, or scale rather. So with the scale selected, I'm going to select the Move tool and move the scale back. And then I'm going to make like 4 copies of this. So I'm going to go Control J, 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 J. I don't know if that's 4, but anyway, you get the idea. So we've got a bunch of copies under here. So we'll just move the gills out. Scales out rather. And sometimes you'll be able to select it, and sometimes you won't. There we go. I think I'd only have one more underneath, because I think that's all I did. Let's see, I think that's the last one. Oh, I have one more. Okay, I'll put that one under here. Okay, so there are the scales for our fish. So we have scales. Okay, now we need to give these fins and these tail fins a little bit of decoration. To do this, we need to select the gill. And we need to make a copy, Control J, and we need to move that off because I need to straighten out this line. In order to do that, you need to select the Node tool and press down Alt and click and Alt and click, and that will straighten this out. Alrighty, now these lines are not going to look like the ones that we had. They're not going to be tapered at both ends. They're going to be tapered at one end. So I'm going to need to go back to Stroke, and I'm going to need to go back to Pressure, and I'm going to need to do a reset. Otherwise, this is going to be really weird. So once I've reset, then I can move one of these down, if it will do that. There we go. Okay, so what you want, I double-clicked to make that work, in case you're wondering. Okay, so I double-clicked on the end so that they would move down, and I'm going to make a line like this. Notice when I did that, what happened here. Now I have something that's thick on one end and thin on the other, which is what I want. So I'll click out of there, and I'm going to click on this again. Make sure the Move tool is selected because I want to shorten it up a little bit. Shorten this up a little bit because these lines are going to go onto those fins. So I need to turn this around and move this down into this fin and fit that in there. Whoops, didn't fit that in there. Like that, as best we can. And then I need to make a bunch of these and then just put them along a line on our fin. So I'm going to Control J, 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 and I am going to move one over, move that one over, move that one over, and then alter them so that they will fit in here. That look is down a little bit, so we will, on my keyboard, I'll just click a couple of times and move that up. There we go, and click up a couple of times and make sure that these all fit on there. Okay, so we have these lines, and this should be called decor, and it isn't, so I will say that's one decor. That's the other one. I use that for decoration. And it would have been easier if I would have named them in the first place. And this is decor. And this will now be decor. Okay, so we have these four that are decor. Now, what I could do is I could make copies of all these and then move them up there, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to make a copy as a group. I think that will be a lot easier. When I did this before, I tried to do them individually. That takes for frickin' ever. So I'm just going to copy all these like that, and then I'm going to right-click, copy, then right-click and paste, and drag this up. And then flip it around. So then all I have to do once I click out of this is to just make them fit. So here we have a few that we have to make fit. And we have this one, we have to make this one fit. Really these, the base of these is what's supposed to be fitting on the line. So we can make these fit. Move this up a little bit. And click out of there and see if they all fit. So there we go. So we are almost done, believe it or not. So all we really have to do is to just copy one of these and Control J and take this and move it out and flip it over to where the fat part is down there and over, make it longer. So this is going to be a long one. So now I have this one, and then all I have to do is to Control J, and shouldn't have done that, but that's fine. And then we will put that in place. I'd like this to be a little bit like that. So now we have these, and what we can do is we can select both of these. Well, this is going to be an issue. Well, maybe it's this one. Good. Okay. So we selected both of those, and then we copy and paste. And then we have another group that we can just move down here. Really, I think this part is really a lot of busy work. So now we have our scales, our gill, our decor lines. Oh, and we have one more line we need to do. We need to do this one. So we will just Control J and move this over to here. And we need this to be, I'll just move this to be where it's on top. It needs to be on top of our fin. There we go. And if you can't see it, it just means it's buried underneath all those layers. You need to move them around. If I would have thought about it, there's a way that you can duplicate these where you don't have to go through all this all the time. Okay, but we're almost done, so it doesn't matter. So we put that one there, and I'll copy, and I'll paste, and move the other one. And so now we have this one like that. So now we're done with the scales. Now what we need to do is give this little guy some color. So I am going to try to find the fish down here somewhere, select the fish, and then I'm going to go over to gradient. I'm going to give this fish a gradient. I don't know if fish have gradient or not, but I'm going to give mine one. And select linear, select the fill place, and try to find a little bit of orange. Maybe more orange than that. Okay, a little bit of orange, and then we'll move this slider a little bit so he's not so white, like there. So just a little bit of gradient. So we've got the gradient on the fish. Now what we need is for this fin to have a color. So I'm going to take this color picker right here. Take this color picker and I'm going to sample this color down here and let it go. And that's going to give our fin the color of the tail. Then I'm going to select this down here, go to our color picker and go down to the tail and let it go. And now we have color on there. And then I'm going to select my pectoral fin, use a color picker, drag it down on the tail and let it go. So now the fins and the tail are all the same color. The last color I want to do is his eye. And I think I'm going to give that a little bit of a gray color. So now we have our fish, an orange color with his gill and all of his scales and all that stuff. In this video, I use shapes to make the body of my fish. Then I used the node tool to adjust the body. I also illustrated the use of stroke pressure to change the shape of the strokes to make the gills and scales of the fish. So give this a try using the various shapes to create your own illustrations. The stroke pressure option can increase the variability of your illustrations, as you can see in this fish. Without these stroke pressure options, this fish would be a lot more boring. So remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay informed when my next video drops. Visit my Buy Me a Coffee page to check out my log posts as well as the post to my gallery. You can also help support my channel by buying me a coffee if you're so inclined.